Check that out.
Dude, that's impressive.
We are live, episode 31, Whiskey Wednesday. I'm your host, Dr. Dan Ford, and as always, for my special guest for Whiskey Wednesday, the Ninja, Dr. Jason Pittman. Welcome, my friend.
It is great to be back. We haven't talked in so long, at least not on a live show.
Yeah, not on a live show. We've all got some different things. Maybe we'll have This Life in Tech. Some special episodes for that here and there. But for those that don't know, Whiskey Wednesday is we talk about leadership. Different things that Jason and I do, and of course over some whiskey. I was given this. I have no idea how good this whiskey is going to be. It sounds absolutely dreadful, but I'm going to try it. It's a sample of this thing called Sheepdog, and it's peanut butter whiskey. I cannot imagine this is going to taste great. But just in case, I have to give a little bit of props to the organization during my MBA at the greatest University of Michigan, Go Blue. I've got the Constellation Brands High West Double Rye in case this peanut butter whiskey is going to get downed or tossed or something.
Well, I mean, the only good thing is if it's bad, at least it's in a little bottle.
Yeah.
It ain't lasting long.
If it wasn't given to me, I'm not buying it. I'm not a big fan of flavored whiskey. And I'm saying it like that because people will go, well, hey, how about if it's done in a rum cask or something like that? That to me is not flavored. I'm not looking to add cinnamon to my whiskey. I'm not looking to add chocolate. I'm not, you name it. I'm not looking to do that. I mean, that's not whiskey to me. That is a drink, but
some might call it an abomination.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, speaking of which, real quick, cheers. I have beer. I don't have whiskey, but
that's all right.
Hey, it's the right color. So I was sending you some pictures of that.
God, that's that is absolute garbage.
I sent you some pictures of that distilled mead.
Oh yeah. I saw that. Killer Bees.
Killer.
Not any good?
I was confused the whole time. Am I drinking mead or am I drinking some distilled liquor? Like I didn't get it. No, I didn't like it. Not one bit. And I've had mead that was like finished like in a bourbon cask. And so like you're saying, it just adds a finish to it. That's it. It's not a flavor. It doesn't add to the profile. It just gives it a little special something, right? That I like because it tastes like mead. This did not taste like mead. It didn't taste like whiskey. It tasted like I had a drop of both left in two different bottles. And instead of going out and buying something, I just poured it together.
It's interesting because I've asked a couple of distillers about distilling mead. And both of their advices were don't do it. And I said, well, why? And they said, well, first, most honey that people get are like clove honey. Mm-hmm. And that's like, because if you can get like a fruit one, then you might be okay. But you're going to have to age it like it's a scotch, right? Mm-hmm. The whole reason why you got to age scotch the way they do is one, a lot of them put a little bit too much of the heads in there because they're kind of like, hey, look, this thing's going to sit for 12 years and the wood's going to help to mellow it out. So we need more volume since we're putting it out at 12 years anyway. So they go, they're saying like, I'm going to have to do the same thing with mead. I'm still going to try because I've got a blueberry honey farm. So a honeybees that are overseeing blueberries.
Yeah.
And they think that maybe. And if it's no good, then it costs me $30 to find out.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's not a terribly hard, in terms of finances, investment to try it. Dude, maybe you crack the case, right? But I'm just telling you my experience with this stuff. They also had a bottle of mead that was infused with apples. And you know me, I don't like mixing stuff. I like my whiskey neat. I like my beer dark, just like my coffee. And I like my mead just straight up honey mead. But dude, I drank the apple infused stuff, and for the record, I hate apple juice also. Like I've never liked it, even as a kid. That was better than the distilled stuff.
Yeah. All right, you're gonna have to excuse me for a moment because I gotta dump this stuff out so I can pour some real whiskey in there. But I'm gonna start it off so you can let the our fans or whatever. And by the way, we're streaming on 3 locations tonight, and started having to learn StreamYard, which we picked up from This Life in Tech. But we're streaming to Facebook, YouTube, and I figured, hey, why not? Let's stream to Twitch.
Sure.
I'm trying to catch that younger demographic. Since the gamers, hey, at some point they're going to want to, they're definitely going to want to get into business at some point. So with that, I'm going to start it off. We didn't get here on our own, but I want to take us back, like all the way to as early as you can remember. What's your earliest example of leadership?
Oh yeah, that's an easy one for me. Spot on. I remember it like it happened yesterday. I can still smell it. So for me I don't remember exactly how old I was, but I was definitely under 10. And I was sitting, I told this story in This Life in Tech in a small piece. I'll tell you the whole story since I got time, since he's pouring his bullshit whiskey out. Sitting in a barbershop, old school barbershop. And I was getting my hair cut. My dad was getting his hair cut. I had gotten mine done. And I'm sitting like on this couch, waiting on my dad to finish. My dad finishes getting his hair cut. And there was a gentleman there that had been done before us and was having trouble getting his jacket zipped up. Dude, I can still smell, because this was back in the day in Northeast Ohio, you could smoke inside places, right? This is mid-'80s, early 80s. And I can still remember that stale smell of the barbershop, right? And the oil from the clippers and all that jazz. And I can remember this dude's jacket. It was a quilted down jacket. And he clearly had some cognitive issues, right? And so he wasn't able to articulate his dexterity enough to zip the jacket. And without missing a beat, my dad didn't even ask him, just zipped his jacket up for him, gave him a pat on the shoulder. They exchanged some words, and off we went. I don't know where the guy went. I never saw this dude again. I grew up in a small town. It wasn't that big, right?
Right.
And so, what that imparted to me as a very young person, I was under 10, maybe I was 6, 7, somewhere around there, right? Was if something needs to be done, it's best just to step forward and do it. That's how I would describe it looking at it in hindsight. But really what it was a compassion for fellow human beings and what it means to try and help somebody out of a situation that they're not going to be able to help themselves out of. And that they're probably going to not be in a good spot if they don't get some measure of help, right? I mean, it was winterish. I don't remember it being particularly snowy. It actually didn't snow that much where I lived. But yeah, man, this dude was going to get cold. You know what I mean? And that's the first thing. In fact, I'll even say this, man. It is the only distinct episodic form of leadership that I'll tell you about. Everything else is some amalgamation that I've picked up traits from people, and it's not about the person. It's about a thing, right? That is a full episode, right?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I think it's a great one because a leader has to have their finger on the pulse, right? And in this case, it's also, we have to be leaders in the community, leaders of their family, leaders at work, friends, what have you. And your dad, without even thinking, was like, hey, here's someone who's having some trouble. And he's right here. It was nothing to him, but that guy could have gone outside and who knows, maybe he, falls down into a puddle and now the inside of the jacket's all messed up because it's now freezing cold water inside. Like now it's just completely, this guy's toast, right? Who knows what could happen?
Well, yeah, and in that situation, like this is where the bystander effect comes from, right? The easiest answer, the incentive for human behavior there was to just walk out the door and ignore it and pretend like it wasn't going on. I've never really even talked to my dad about it. I've mentioned it here and there to him. I don't know that he remembers it because it was a long time ago, man. And, my dad's older now. But I definitely remember it. I definitely 100% remember it.
Yeah, for me, and a lot of my stuff also, comes from my father, and a lot of them come from examples from playing baseball. And this one, which I remember, very often because it's, we talk about it because, as a leader, we're looking to put our team in the best position to win, and we're not necessarily looking to do it the way that just everyone before us did it if it doesn't make sense. So we're in coach pitch. Now, in coach pitch, which is, maybe they call it clinic, whatever it is, we're all like, 6, 7 years old, something along those lines.
Right.
So most kids aren't going to be hitting the ball very far. So my dad had our center fielder, and his name's Tommy Ray. Basically play right at where second base is. That was our center field.
Mm-hmm.
And we got tons of outs from that. Because if someone hits the ball up the middle, which is where most balls typically get hit, well, he's right there. So if someone was on first, he steps on second and he throws the ball to first base. Well, many of the other coaches around the league despise this. They said, you're not teaching them baseball. Well, of course we are. Well, of course my dad was at the time. We're teaching them be in the right place at the right time, make the play. You have a job, and your job is to do this. And as the coach being the leader of the team, this is what I want you to do. And all fundamentals are still there. Just because it's not the way baseball is played, and this is what's funny. Take a look today and how all these shifts occur in Major League Baseball today. That wasn't occurring in 1984. Everyone played their spot in Major League Baseball. This is just another example of put your members of your team in the right place to win, and it makes the team stronger.
Yeah. How interesting is that, man? If you think about all the people we could talk to between all of our friends, right? If we put them all together, it makes me wonder how many of our dads were our little league coaches, the equivalent of little league. My dad was, and my dad did it for my brother, who's 3 years older than me, and he did it for me. And he did it the whole way through until we started playing. I played a little bit of high school ball, not very much for not very long. It just stopped being my personal sport. I much preferred weightlifting, powerlifting, wrestling, and I didn't really like football, to be honest with you, but whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, how formative is that to have that immediate leadership? Because when it's your dad, it doesn't stop. It's not like you go home from the ball game and those lessons end. Yeah, right?
Yeah, definitely not for me. It just didn't happen. And there's another thing which was always, and it's a motto. I mean, my dad coached, kids baseball, well after I graduated high school. I mean, I think he stopped maybe when I was 28 or 29. I mean, it was a long time.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, he kept doing it. But the motto never changed. And at the end of every game, he would always say, basically, all right, what is it? It's not a matter if you win or lose. It's how you played. And even if, and then when we won, it doesn't matter because you're only as good as the next game you play. Right. And this was said every single time, up until the very last, game that he wound up coaching, because I think that's and that has always impressed upon me that it doesn't matter if I won or lost, because who cares? It's already recorded. It's in the past. Do I want to keep remembering what happened in the past, or do I need to live as, you have so eloquently said? Are you living for your resume or the eulogy?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, man. My dad never really talked. He's not a talker, really. It's like that example I said about the barbershop. He didn't even really say a word until like he was done and he patted the guy in the back, right? It was really like, hey, man, good luck or later or whatever, dude. The guy said thanks and he said, you're welcome, right? Same thing like growing up with sports. He didn't really ever talk about much. It was more of action. Look, this is how you behave, which to me is a really strong form of leadership because he didn't have to say anything. My dad wasn't. My dad was not the disciplinarian in the family. My mother was, and still is. I mean, you kind of got to be with a couple of us running around, but nonetheless, right? It was always more of by example. Let me show you how to do this. You know what I mean? Rather than let me tell you, and then right. And he never talked about winning and losing. I think we won way more games than we lost, if I really think about it. But he never talked about it. And he never really talked about it in terms of performance. It was more of action and reaction. You know what I mean? Cause and effect, or just behavior and performance, but not as like you should do better or worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I had a little bit of both with those things. I remember because I had a batting cage in my backyard growing up, and so my dad would get in there, and he'd hit 20 pitches in a row right-handed and turn right around and do it again left-handed. All right. When we had kind of like internal scrimmages, my dad would get out there and pitch, and one of my other buddies, Scott, his dad, played catcher because he played catcher in high school, and he would, my dad would throw knuckleballs, all this stuff, and I remember this one guy, kid, we're 12 years old. His name's Mike Grimley. He was just, he looked like a 15 or 16-year-old. He had like a mustache. I mean, he was just a big guy.
There was always one of those dudes. There was always, he like failed once, and got held back or something.
Yeah, I mean, I know he wasn't, because I mean, I was with him, all the way in coach pitch, right? He was just always was on, on the team, and he's, sprouted up, right? Well, he hits this ball right back up the middle of my dad's pitching, and my dad with his bare hand just grabbed the ball out of the air, and I was like, all right, bam, done. Like, and the ball, I mean, we're close. I mean, I think at that point maybe we're about 55 feet away or something like that. And Mike used to, I mean, even for a 12-year-old, I mean, that's the ball's coming back at you. You're throwing the ball 60, 70 miles an hour. It's coming back at you pretty close to that fast as well, too, right? So it's, a little bit, maybe even a little bit faster. But I mean, he just did those kind of things, was out there on the field. And, I remember, it was all, especially for us, it was, he put people in the right position.
Mm-hmm.
And even, and this is the big part, even when you made a mistake in the field, it was shake it off, forget about it. Because again, it's over. And I think that's always impressed upon me to, all right, I can't change it. It's already gone. It's done.
Yeah.
Got to move forward. Got to be like a shark, move forward.
Yeah, just keep plugging away. It's it's never about, and I think you and I are a lot like in this way, and I'm still very much like this now. I don't really think about what I did yesterday. It doesn't matter. It only matters as much as I need it to inform what I'm going to do tomorrow. That's really it. I don't think about it. I don't care what's what.
Yeah, I look at it to an aspect of, have I analyzed it enough to get all of the potential lessons out of it,
mm-hmm.
and then I'm done.
Yep. Yeah, I don't value judge it. I mean, you can call me the 5-time, which is accurate, but they're still down in a box down there because what do I care? I cared in the moment because it was worth something, if nothing else, just as a little twist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Those moments are gone. They were valuable for what they were, and I'm done. I'm ready to move forward.
Yeah.
Like a shark. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And that's only because Wolverines go all different ways.
They're squirrely.
I'm gonna get one day. I found a breeder. He's been breeding like Wolverines in captivity he's like 6 generations of it. So they're getting look, polar bears are coming, dude. They're coming down. We're gonna see the ice caps just gonna be colder and colder. It's gonna come down. Polar bears are gonna be careful. I'm telling you.
Okay. Oh man.
So with that, I wound up seeing this video of a Wolverine, and it backed down 3 wolves.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It backed them down. They were like big, yeah.
The little because they are little relative to pretty much every other predator in their ecosystem. Wolverines and badgers, man. What that should show you, Okay, so this is interesting, right? Maybe you want to get into this. There's an interesting dialogue related to this about why Kung Fu has the poetic names for movements, especially as they mimic animals, right? And when you look at like badgers and wolverines, because they're roughly the same size, but they're both very, let's say, aggressive. And I think it shows you the value of when you want something, what more than not will win the day and carry you forward is just raw aggression and forward movement. Right? I mean, that Wolverine didn't scare. I've seen that video. Didn't scare those wolves off. I've seen them chase bears off kills. Because they're all scavengers, right? Same with honey badgers. They ain't big. Or mongoose versus cobra, right? Classic example.
Yeah.
It's just the aggression.
Well, when you have a plan and you execute on it and you're moving forward, the majority of people don't have a plan and therefore they separate. They split,
Yep.
right? And
It's
once
momentum.
that happens, once that happens, it's game over.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why, like, in academia right now, it's really hard, especially if you're tenure track, to be executing because a lot of things are either shut down or virtual. And listen, man, I don't think I've ever had in 10 years, I don't think I've ever had a more productive semester. And it largely has to do with I had a plan that now is coming together after a year and a half of hard work. This involves lots of student groups, right? And it's just forward raw aggression and execution of simple plans, really simple movements, really, right?
Well, right. It doesn't have to be complicated, right? As a matter of fact, you don't want it complicated. It's okay for
Right.
things to be complex because we can break down complex, things into smaller, manageable things,
Mm-hmm.
right? And by doing that, it allows our, lizard brains to focus, be, and I would even go so far as to say hyper focused at that point, especially like when you're in the moment. At that point, it almost feels like time is speeding up.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in the middle of crisis, time goes fast, and that's why your adrenaline keeps pumping, and you feel as if 30 minutes went away, and it may have only been a couple of minutes because as things just are going, and because you executed on a plan, you knew what you were going to do. You basically, I don't know if the right word is devolved to your lowest level of training, so to speak, that you've had that you were the most competent in, whatever that was. And over time, hopefully that's increasing. And then bam, you fire on all pistons, and you're good to go. Other
Well,
people don't.
no, and I think when you're in this spot is because what you're describing is flow state in a roundabout way. And so this is interesting, man, because I've been reflecting on it like in a meta way. And so not only is it the most productive semester I've had in terms of just raw output, okay? It's also the busiest, but it's also the least stressful, which is counterintuitive. You would think that, like, because I'm running at a pace that's in the red of RPMs, let's say, that my stress levels would be commensurate. It's the exact opposite. They're completely decoupled. And I think that's largely because I spent a good amount of time during the summer just coming up with the plan and making sure the simple pieces were in a certain order. And then all semester for the last, it's been 12 weeks now. We only have 3 weeks to go. It's just following those simple little steps, dude. And you don't have to think about it. That's the beauty of it. The choices are made. I made them a year ago. Now it's just executing.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people forget about that aspect of planning, and I take this one concept, and it is from, oh shit, I can't remember what general this is. It'll come to me. General Hal Moore. So General
Mm,
Moore said, if you only have 1 minute to plan, then use all 60 seconds, right?
mhm,
And when I was developing the plan for the strategy for the credit union, I spent a lot of time coming up with the plan. And many of people, including my boss, who was constantly, what's going on? What's going on? I feel like we're behind. We're behind. And I'm like, we're not. We're good. I got it. You know, I had a team. I'm because one, I did this an entirely different way than had ever been done before at the credit union. And of course, now you got the head geek in charge, running it for which is not normal for most organizations. The chief information officer is not the one that runs this, and it all came because I had some crazy ideas, and the CEO liked the sound of my crazy ideas. And I said, I've got a plan. We're going to do this different. I'm going to entrust people who have not normally ever been a part of the process with being able to lead parts of the process. They're going to take accountability for these pieces because now they're being included in the joint solution. It's not being told to them what they're going to have to do. They get to be a part of the solution. And then, boom, everything delivered on time, no extra weekends, no crossed words being sent out there to everyone, and just done. And then I got a call from the CEO, and he's like, "Congratulations, this was great." Like I couldn't imagine this could have come out any better, And it wasn't, I just had the crazy idea, right? That was really what it came down to. And as a leader, got to have some crazy ideas, because if you don't, like I tell the people at the credit union, you say, and we've talked about this before. How are we getting out of the solar system? Well, what I've told my folks, and I say it all the time, how are we going to be the first credit union on Mars? Elon Musk wants to go to Mars. I want to be the first credit union on Mars.
Yeah, why not? I can vote in space. Why can't I bank? Perfect.
But if we don't have those crazy ideas, and then we have teams around us that can take the crazy idea, polish it up, make it actionable, and execute, yeah, that still gets us another couple of steps closer to banking on Mars.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question, man.
Yeah.
Because this is definitely a trait our circle of people all have. And I'm always curious where it comes from. And so,
damn sexy good looks.
Well, hey, man, look at me, dude. Come on now. Look at this guy. So we have this common foundation of first principle leadership coming from our fathers, right? And so fast forward, several decades, we're working in tech. Where did your sense, unwavering, and I'm the same way, right? This is complimentary, not accusatory. Unwavering sense of self-confidence come from? I would suspect there was one, maybe two events. Probably you were put into a sticky situation by yourself with no help, and somehow you figured out how to claw your way out of the depths of hell. What was that?
So I'm going to go back to when I was at this company called American Wood Molding. I was originally just hired to be the network engineer. That was it. And we were changing out our ERP system to a system that stands for Shut Up and Pay, SAP. It doesn't really stand for that, but you are going to shut up and pay. And so they knew that and American Wood Molding was really large wood molding distributor. It was a joint venture between Thunderbird Wood Molding and Fletcher Challenge Force. Fletcher Challenge Force was over in New Zealand. And we had all these warehouses around the country and around the world. And most of them were on, 56K single channel T1s, right? So it's a one channel T1. Some of them were actually were on a 56K dial up. They would dial in, they would get the whatever codes, put their orders through, the EDI, stuff like that. But most of them are one channel. I mean, that's really taken it back. And, I've got one of my interns on. So hopefully he knows how many channels there are in a T1, because I'm going to be asking him tomorrow. So you've got some time to look it up since you're studying for your Network Plus exam. I don't even know if they have that on the Network Plus anymore, but it was on my when I first took my CCNA, it was on there.
Hell yeah, it was.
That was in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
No, 2000 I took it. 2000, because I was at XM Radio shortly after I was at XM Radio at the end of 2000. I was at American Wood Molding at the turn of 2000, which was a non-event. For me, I didn't have any issues with Y2K where I was at. I don't know if you did, but anyway. So we got all of these basically, offices that got to be upgraded. We're supposed to be going live on a certain date. No way SAP works. I had to upgrade everyone to T1s. They had to be on a full T1, and that was like $2,000 a month back then, for 1.5 megabits per second, right? So they fired my boss, and they came to me, and his name was Jeff Bankston, and said, "Okay, you pull this off. You're the IT manager." I'm like, "Okay, in order for me to pull this off, I need to hire this guy named Ken." Ken was my brother-in-law at the time, but Kenny was really good, and he, so Ken and I scheduled everything we were going all around the country, because I was going to like El Paso, to Pittsburgh, to Georgia, to California, get in a car, drive down, go back to here, because I had different parts showing up at different times. So for like 3 weeks, I was on a plane, and sometimes we were getting in there. We'd configure the routers, test everything, upgrade all of the computers, and that was, we were carrying, an external CD-ROM drive with CDs for the images, because we couldn't pull down those images back from where we were at the time. It would have crushed the wires. Test the stuff out, and sometimes we were hitting 2 cities in one day, because we'd get in, we'd have another city at like 2:00 that we would get in terms of the flight, get to that city 6:00. We're installing stuff there, and rinse repeat. And we just went around. I didn't know if I could do that. That was my first opportunity, really testing my breaking point. And it was probably the 3rd city in when I went, "We're gonna fucking do this." Then I knew it, and it was on like Donkey Kong at that point, and everything went off without a hitch. But it was close. I mean, think about the logistics and how many times carriers screw up and equipment being delayed, and sometimes the equipment did get delayed. And if it
doesn't get provisioned correctly,
right? If the equipment was delayed, we just went, "Fuck it, we're changing our flight, going on to the next. We'll come back."
Mm-hmm.
And then poof, gone. Like, we just had to, being on the flight. But it started off with coming up with a plan.
Yep.
And I always wrote everything down. I feel like I'm a relatively intelligent person, but what I really believe is what takes me to a different level is I wrote everything down, and I put myself in a position when I would write them down to easily be able to find what I wrote down. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people just take notes.
Yeah, right.
And I took notes, but in my notebooks, I always kept the first like 3 pages of my notebooks blank, until I would write a date and some high level topics and who was in that meeting, like on the first couple of pages. So that way I knew, and then I would tab it out to the dates of the meeting. So if I could flip to it. And now, I mean, I just use Evernote for the most part. Sometimes Google Keep, whatever I have it, but typically it's Evernote at this point. So I can search my notes. But because of those notes that I kept all the time, I was able to recall the things that I did. I could go back and then get that recollection. And whenever I had something that worked, I definitely made sure I wrote it down. So I could just repeat it until it didn't work anymore.
How crazy is it, man? Our background is so similar. So my answer to the same question is similar, except it wasn't with network upgrades. It was with imaging desktops. Okay. And nobody had ever done this shit before. And I used floppies, not CD-ROMs, because there was no guarantee that all the desktops and all these offices I had to go around up and down California, which is basically all around the country at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you couldn't count on any of those having a CD-ROM drive because this is like 2001, 2002, right? But you could count on all of them having a floppy available.
Yeah.
And so I had to, right? And this project started with me being asked if I thought I could deliver on the mission. And the mission was these systems had to be upgraded. Let's say it was to Windows 98, right? And sure, I can. How do you spell Windows 98? You know what I mean? Same idea. Fuck it. I'm just going to jump in and what's the worst case scenario? They fire me. I'm probably no worse off than I already was at that point. Right? Yeah. And so I had to figure out from at this point, right? People don't understand. Like there was no Ghost. Their server shit wasn't in any fog. There was no RIS server. None of that existed. Okay. And I had to figure out how to use these diskettes to boot a machine over a network, mount a network drive using command line, and pull this image down and restart the machines. Okay. And then I had to figure out, well, how am I going to do this efficiently with these offices and do more than one in a day because it's going to take too long to do them all one a day, two a weekend, whatever, right? And so then that's how I learned how to program and write programs and scripts to automate shit. And same idea, man. I remember this distinctly. I got up to Berkeley in Northern California. I was down in Los Angeles. And we had like, let's say 5 or 6 offices in that area, and I had to do them all in a night. Okay. And so what I would do is I planned it out so that I could start it. I flew into the Bay Area, rented a car, drove to Berkeley because that was the highest office on a map, started the process, and then drove around through these offices and started all these processes up because it took a while to image over. At that point, maybe I had 100 base T, right? If I was lucky. And then by the time I was done starting them all up, I could go back and it'd be finished, and then I could go through them all. And I slept on somebody's desk, dude. Like, screw it. Who cares? And it kind of back like when we were talking about our fathers, and it was never about win or loss. It was about like behavior and repetition and things, right? At that point, it wasn't about being tired or not being tired or what's working or what's not. It was just, this is getting done one way or the other. And if I have to sleep on somebody's desk, then that's just what's going to happen. And that's what happened. And I got it done.
Yeah, and that took me to the next aspect because of American Wood Molding and now, my confidence inside, right? Internally, my confidence is now really starting to get up. Externally, it was, I told everyone what I was going to do, right? Yeah. And that was a part of it. But I was like, Ric Flair, I was cutting promos all the time. And because of that, though, is how I wound up getting my job at XM Radio, and now it just went from essentially a mom and pop organization that was put in some good money. Now I'm on the national stage, right? XM Radio at the time, they had pulled in something like $500 million in VC money, and that was unheard of.
Yeah, that was big time.
And we're utilizing code at Cisco, and it was experimental at best, right? I mean, this is when we're first starting. 802.3 AD was not even a true standard yet. They were still. I don't think IEEE had made it a standard. It was still in like somewhat draft mode, but everyone was putting stuff out. That's where you could bind multiple 1,000 base T network cards together to get an aggregate of like 2,000. Right. Which, oh, by the way, all you get is redundancy. You don't get 2,000 because the bus speed was only like 500 meg, right? So, they weren't getting that much. But in their minds, wait, we got two, like, no.
That always made me laugh when these developers would come in. The network's slow. Dude, what's the buffer on your disk? What's the buffer on your disk, bro?
Yeah. Tell me about your paging file.
That's right.
What's your window size, right? Getting into the actual, all the other TCP parameters, they think, oh, I just need more. No, dude, you don't. How did we launch a shuttle and a shuttle to the moon?
Wait, that didn't happen.
I know. That's what I was just saying. Aman, we're just joking. We actually did know, and the world is round, Aman, just so you know. I kept this thing up there.
But yeah,
So,
man, you get like a big solid victory in there. And then I think what happens is, at least speaking for myself, you tell me what you think about this idea, right? Is I think back to my dad zipping that dude's jacket up, and I fast forward to that moment where I finished the last office by myself. And this is like you, man. Dude, I was 100% on my own. There was nobody there to help me. There was no help. It was just me, right? And what happens then is you get this self confidence that allows you to bootstrap your own leadership module, so to speak, right? Where now you have a pattern of behavior that resulted in a positive outcome through you leading yourself. And then you practice that for a while and you realize that you can lead yourself in any situation. And then later on, you start figuring out, well, wait a minute, if I can do it for myself, I bet I can do it for other people too.
and I think that's a really important part. We can do this for ourselves because we choose to. I still believe this wholeheartedly that we choose to allow people to influence us, to make us feel bad. It's a choice, and we can choose not to. It may be hard, but of course it's hard, right? Someone you might care about, because if someone said something to me I don't care about, that I don't know or something like that, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You don't know me. So uh, I literally don't think too much of it. If I care about them, all right, well, why are they saying that? Maybe they're hurt themselves, jealous, lashing out, but I still have to make that conscious choice to allow that pain. And when we talk about willing into victories, I'm just not accepting failure. I'm going to figure it out. Even though our place where we did our doctorate is no longer at the level it once was. They had a really good motto: find a way or make one.
Yeah, from Hannibal.
Yeah,
The the barbarian, not the brain eater.
yeah. Well, the brain eater might have said it too, but I mean,
No, but it's true, dude. It's absolutely true.
find a way or make one.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't going to fail. No way. No way was I going to go back home at that time, so to speak, and look this guy Jeff Bankson in the eye, and then other people later, and say I failed. Mm-mm. No way.
No, not at all,
Not
man.
happening. Because it's not a game, right? It's not a game. It's not like, all right, I lost the game. Right now, this is real life. This is my livelihood. This is me telling someone I couldn't do it. Because it's just me against the machine, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And football, baseball, basketball, wrestling, you name it, you're going up against someone else. And they might be a little bit better than you. That doesn't mean you failed just because you lost. You fail when you give up. And there is no way I'm giving up. I'm not giving up on anything. Not happening.
Nope. No, not. It's never gonna happen, bro. Because then you get that taste of victory, right? And let's be honest, it gets a little addictive. And so, like, I had this experience with one of my student groups. So within the span of, we're in November now, aren't we? Shit.
We
Within the
are,
span
dude.
of
Dude, there was an election last night.
Yeah, dude. Whatever, man. Whatever, dude. I cast my vote like the week before, and then I did my civic duty. I fulfilled my obligation as a citizen, and I'm not emotionally attached to it. I'm on to the next thing.
Well, right. This is what's so funny, because all these people. I mean, the tirades are out there. I cast for Joe Jurgensen. I voted Libertarian. Every chance I could get, and I'm not ashamed to say it, because I'm voting for what I want the country to look like in 40 years, not what I want it to be in 4 years. And people can vote for whatever they want. Doesn't mean I'm not going to troll them. Whenever I get the opportunity. I mean, that's fun. But this is just mind-boggling to me. This is 2020. One, we have paper ballots. Two, they're not even like they're not even like a bubble coded, so to speak, where I can put them into like a Scantron and get the results constantly tabulated. Like, what do you mean we're counting votes?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
dude.
this is
Now listen, in the great state of North Carolina, I'll let you know that we had full electronic voting. And so you got a paper ballot that, it got imprinted onto that went into a secure lockbox. So there was a record of it, but the voting was immediate through the computer. And it actually was, dude, I had my daughter help me, just to get her involved and understand the process. And Mrs. Pittman was on her side voting and I was on my side. And, she could press the next button and then I would explain to her what we were doing. You know what I mean? Not to inculcate her into some ideology. It's not an ideological thing for me. I have a civic duty as a citizen that I fulfilled. But yeah, dude, I was wondering the same thing. Like, even as advanced as that was, like, this is the best we can do in the 21st century. I mean, this is Buck Rogers territory we're in now, right?
I am appalled at so many different things. Like, I honestly, this is the part that that I think this again, it gets back to leadership. The people don't understand how this country's leadership hierarchy works. They put all their eggs in the basket of the president, and I'm going, I don't care if President Trump wins, great. If Biden wins, I think kind of silly. I don't think he was the best Democrat candidate out there. I don't think he was even close. I think the Democrats picked the wrong candidate. And you don't like the Democrats? They're also the Republicans.
I'll say this.
I look at both. They're both horrible. Both parties are. They're the same. They're the two sides of the same coin. They both get nothing done and just want to stay in power.
If this is the best that we can come up with technologically, and this is the best we can come up with as a society,
I exactly. It's they don't understand that. Okay, let's say Biden wins. Dude, nothing's getting done for at least 2 years because the GOP holds the Senate. They're not. It does not appear to me that I'm fascinated with all of this. I mean, I stay up, I follow it. I mean, it's just something I enjoy. But the Senate is still, as of right now, at least last I checked, and maybe I'll do a double check. But it looks like to me the Senate is still staying red.
And it will for you're right. It will for at least 2 more years.
Yeah. So at best, right now, it's 48 seats Republican, 46 Democrat, and there's 2 that are held by independents. That's what's confirmed right now. There's a couple of states that haven't quite confirmed, but it looks like the Republicans lost 1 and the Democrats lost 1 as well. So they swapped. It looks like.
Yeah.
So they swapped. So that means for those listening at home, the president doesn't get anything done.
Nope.
Because you've got a Democrat House, a Republican Senate, possibly a Democrat president. Nothing gets done. You need to have the House and the Senate put controlling party there, and then stuff gets done. Right? It's going to, especially if you have a supermajority to where you can get rid of the veto in the event that the president doesn't, want your stuff there either. They don't understand that this is how stuff works. Now, we never got a chance to talk about this on This Life in Tech, I don't think. But the big reason why I'm so big on a third party is that then we have to get back to diplomacy and true negotiation.
Finding what we have in common to move forward from rather than pointing out each other's differences. Exactly.
That's right. The positive leadership aspect.
Yeah. Well, that's inherently
That's
inherently what a 2-party system reinforces. By its nature, it reinforces bicameralism, which is the difference between me and you. Rather than, hey, look, there's lots of things you and I individually disagree on, but I'm pretty sure, given our background, we can find a way to say, no, wait a minute, this is what we have in common, so why don't we start from there and plan forward?
Yeah, and we have.
Yeah.
Many times, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the for those listening at home, Jason and I don't always agree. It's it seems like it at the end, but I don't know, maybe at 75% of the time we agree.
Yeah, probably somewhere around there. I'd 75, 80. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we have to find the ways to get it over, and that's the part of leadership that I think is missing not only in the country but in a lot of organizations.
Mm-hmm.
It's here's the goal. How do we accomplish the goal? We're not going to have everything, and this is an aspect of negotiations that I think many people don't understand. There's this aspect called a BATNA, which is the best alternative to a negotiated agreement, right? The most common aspect of this is like, one, you already have a job. So when you are out potentially exploring new opportunities, you need that job to be better than what you already have, because your current job is your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Now, the best thing to do is maybe you have a couple others, because, all right, I don't like my employer, so I need to go get a job that I'd be happy with, but maybe I want a second one, because then I have something I can really negotiate for. Because this one, I was conservative on my negotiation because I didn't have anything else, because my best alternative wasn't good. I didn't like it because it was my current employer, because I don't like my employer, right? I do actually like my employer, but in this case, so you get another one. So you have something to pit it against. Well, in any of these things, when you have multiple parties and you're trying to help negotiate, if you're the mediator or the arbiter, you have to find a way in which to get people on the same playing field. Now, there's a great example of this in a movie that I think a lot of our folks will have watched, and that's Wedding Crashers. So in the very beginning, the two, they're both like they're arbiters, and they're like, hey, there was a time, right? They're getting the divorced couple, or the getting ready to get divorced couple, to get on the same like page by finding the things that are common with them instead of the things that were breaking them apart. So that way they could move through and get the negotiation done, wrap it up, and they can go crash some weddings.
Yeah. Well, and I'll leave you with this, and maybe we'll pick up on this next time.
Yeah.
I think another thing that people miss when they're experimenting with leadership styles and techniques is you have to allow people to find their way up to the point where they start jeopardizing that mission, or they start negatively impacting others around them. And then it's your duty, I would say it's your obligation, to step in and smooth that out. That doesn't always take a strong hand. That wouldn't be my first approach, even though I tend to be intense and aggressive by temperament. But there's certainly a time to say, look, we're all on the same team. This is the mission. This is what we all need to agree to do to get there. And if you can't agree, then we're going to have another different conversation, which is fine. I don't mind it. Maybe it's necessary. Maybe there's something else going on, but you have to own that, right?
Very true. That is very true, because we don't have to get, being heavy-handed, so to speak, doesn't mean that we've lost the aspect of diplomacy or of our gentleman savage nature.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, look, don't mistake our kindness for weakness. We're kind to everyone that we meet, but if you're not kind to us, our response is surely not going to be weak.
Right. Exactly.
To my homie
Well,
Alphonse Capone.
that's right. Because the situation just warrants it. And again, it's not necessarily yelling. It's not being forceful with somebody. Aggression doesn't necessarily mean what people take it to mean. It means I'm not scared by confrontation. I don't enjoy it. I don't necessarily feel good about it, but I'm certainly not going to shy away from it, because sometimes it's just necessary to resolve conflict.
There's only one person that I can remember that I've ever yelled at as being, at work. There's only one person, and that would be Michel. That's because he's a Marine. That's the only thing he understands. He understands that, and he understands the knife hands.
Yeah. Or getting picked up and dumped through a chair.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Outside of he's still a good guy. Ian is an amazing guy, that's for sure. So
yeah, I like the guy quite a bit.
Well, my friend, it was great having Whiskey Wednesday. I think we had a good aspect of some leadership. And for those that don't know, I mean, we're looking at transcribing these talks into a book one day. Hopefully, we'll get there. That's the goal. I'm putting it out there, throwing the gauntlet down, the line in the sand, every other type of example we can. But we're gonna get it done.
Yeah.
2021. I think we should have enough material. Maybe even after like maybe 10 to 12 episodes of this part, we should probably have enough material to at least really again.
Yeah, I mean it's. I think we have the outline in mind. It's more fleshing out certain aspects of it. And I don't know about you. I mean, I have an extensive self-dialogue, so whether I talk to myself or you, I don't know who's more fun, to be honest with you. But shit. Probably.
All right, my friend.
Probably. All right, man. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
To the ninja. All right, everyone. Take care.
Cheers. Bye-bye.